Hello, my kindergarten friends. It's Mrs. Kelly, and I am so happy to see you all. I miss you all terribly. I did not think we'd be away from each other for this long, but here I am. And I hope we are going to see each other soon. But while we're away, I am going to be posting some videos of me talking to you so that we can stay in touch. And maybe one day it'll be a story. I'll read you a book. I'll do a little math lesson or a lesson on letters and sounds, just something so that you don't forget who I am while we're away. Today, I have a book to read to you. It's called The Best Nest. And let me see. It's by P.D. Eastman. I know you recognize that guy right there. It looks a little bit like The Cat in the Hat. You're going to notice that it's like his books because you're going to hear some rhyming words in there. This is called The Best Nest. Mr. Bird was happy. He was so happy he had to sing. And this was Mr. Bird's song. I love my house. I love my nest. In all the world, my nest is best. Then Mrs. Bird came out of the house. It's not the best nest, she said. I'm tired of this old place, said Mrs. Bird. I don't like it. Let's look for a new place right now. She sounds angry. So they left the old place to look for a new one. This place looks nice, said Mr. Bird. Let's move in here. Can you see that? They want to move into a hole in the tree. But somebody else had already moved in. See that raccoon? So they looked at another house. This one looks nice, said Mr. Bird, and there's nobody in it. You're wrong, said Mrs. Bird. This house belongs to a foot. So they went on looking. I like this one, said Mr. Bird. It has a pretty red flag on the roof. I've always wanted a house with a flag, said Mrs. Bird. Maybe this place will be all right. But it was not all right. I guess I made a mistake, said Mr. Bird. Look what's happening. Somebody's putting the mail in. No. You make too many mistakes, said Mrs. Bird. I'm going to pick the next house. And here it is, right here. They flew in. They looked around. Isn't it too big? Asked Mr. Bird. I like this big place, said Mrs. Bird. This is the place to build our new nest. They went right to work. They needed many things to build their nest. First, they got some hay. Then they got some straws, some soda straws and broom straws. They got some sweater string. They got some stocking string and mattress stuffing. They got some horse hair. They got some man hair. Soon they had all the hay, all the straw, all the string, all the stuffing, all the horse hair, and all the man hair they could carry. They took it all back to build their nest. Mr. and Mrs. Bird worked very hard. It took them the rest of the morning to finish their nest. This nest is really the best, said Mrs. Bird. I want to stay here forever. Girls and boys, what do you think is going to happen? This is a bell. Do you think it might ring? And if you think it might ring, what do you think is going to happen to that nest? Let's wait and see. Mr. Bird was very happy too. He flew to the top of his house and he sang his song again. I love our house. I love our nest. In all the world, our nest is best. He was so busy singing, he didn't see Mr. Parker coming along. Every day at 12 o'clock, Mr. Parker came to the church. Mr. Parker came to pull a rope, and that rope went all the way up to the bird's new nest. The rope rang the big bell right under Mrs. Bird's nest. Oh dear, this is the sound it made. Bong, bong, bong. I wonder what's going to happen to that nest. Mrs. Bird got out of there as fast as she could fly. Okay, there's Mr. Bird. When Mr. Bird came in, all he could see was a mass of hay and string and stuffing and horsehair and manhair and straws. But where was Mrs. Bird? He looked down into a chimney, but Mrs. Bird wasn't there. He looked down into a water barrel, but Mrs. Bird wasn't there. He saw a big fat cat, and there was a big fat smile on the fat cat's face. There were some pretty brown feathers near the fat cat's mouth. Look over here. Mr. Bird began to cry. Oh dear, he cried. This big fat cat has eaten Mrs. Bird. Mr. Bird flew off. I'll never see Mrs. Bird again, he cried. It was getting dark. It began to rain. It rained harder and harder. Mr. Bird could not see where he was going. All of a sudden, crash! Mr. Bird bumped into something. I wonder what he bumped into. It was his old house. That old house that Mrs. Bird did not like. I'll go inside, said Mr. Bird. I'll rest until the rain stops. Mr. Bird went in, and there was Mrs. Bird, sitting there singing. I love my house, I love my nest. In all the world, this nest is best. You? Here? Gasped Mr. Bird. I thought you hated this old nest. Mrs. Bird smiled. I used to hate it, she said, but a mother bird can change her mind. You see? Girls and boys, look. What do you think that is? And there's no nest like an old nest for a brand new bird. And when the egg popped open, the new bird thought so too. And that is our first story together from being at home. And that was Jenna.
Wait, is this on Caesar?
No, this is a video I'm sending. Yes. So girls and boys, that's it for today. This was kind of a long video, but I'm glad I got a story in. A big happy birthday to David yesterday. And if I missed other birthdays while we've been out, I'm going to wish you a happy birthday the next time. Keep reading books that you have around. Keep counting things in your house. Be good listeners for your families. And remember how much fun we had together, and we'll have that fun together again soon. All right, you guys stay safe and healthy. I miss you all. Bye.